Pranams at the lotus feet of our beloved Bhagwan, respected elders, revered and learned speakers of the day, brothers and sisters of the Sai family, loving Sai Ram and Guru Purnima greetings to one and all. Before I introduce the symposium on the theme Unity of Faiths, that is to take place today on the eve of the Guru Purnima celebrations, it would be most appropriate to commence the proceedings with a poem sung by our Sadguru, Bhagwan Sri Satya Sai Baba, who is the confluence of all religions, the goal of all religions, and the very essence of all religions. Let us first listen to his melodious voice to mark the beginning of this symposium.
Allah yanchu Muhammadiyulu Jehovah yanchu Satkristu Allah yanchu Muhammadiyulu Jehovah yanchu Satkristu Pullabja chudatanchu Vaishnavuలు శంభూరించు సేయులు సదా ప్రలాపంబున గొల్వా అందరికీ ఆయురారోగ్య సంపద లాభంబును సంగి బ్రోచు పరమాత్ముండు ఒక్కడే పరమాత్ముండు ఒక్కడే ఎంచు భావించుడి పరమాత్ముండు ఒక్కడే ఎంచు భావించుడి Mohammedans call him Allah. Good Christians call him Jehovah. Vaishnavites call him Pullabjaksha. Shaivites call him Shambho. And in this way, various people worship the God, and God confers on them long life, health, prosperity, and wealth. Such God is only one, He is Paramatma. Do believe in this truth that there is only one God called by different names.
Religion is the royal highway that leads all of us to God. All great masters and prophets established several pathways to enable human beings to make a connection with and eventually realize their true divine self. But unfortunately, on account of distorted interpretations by few narrow-minded and confused minds, over the time, many so-called religious people have hooked on to false ideologies and meaningless practices. A fundamentalist approach to religion has led to religious intolerance and lack of respect and sensitivity to human feelings. And the outcome, as we all have been witnessing, is avoidable violence and bloodshed. It is ironical that religion that was meant to actually connect man to his higher self and to enable him to live a life of peace and harmony with his fellow beings is tending to become the very antithesis of it. It is therefore very apt that on the eve of the sacred Guru Purnima festival, when we worship and adore our Sadguru Bhagwan Baba, who is the very embodiment of love and who has always preached only one religion, the religion of love, we have organized a symposium on the theme, Unity of Faiths. We have 4 very learned and respectable scholars who will be addressing us today on this theme. We have Professor Akhtarul Wasey, Head, Department of Islamic Studies, Jamia, Milla, Islamia, New Delhi. and His Holiness Swami Dayananda Saraswati ji, who will be addressing us this morning. Reverend Father Dominic Emmanuel, spokesperson and director, Delhi Catholic Archdiocese, and Dhammachari Dr. B.V. Rajaram, director of Rangayana, a theatre institution, Government of Karnataka, Mysore, will be addressing us this evening. Before I call upon them to address this gathering, I would like to recall and present some significant thoughts put forth by Bhagwan on this topic that is so dear to him. Again, the best way to start would be to listen to him directly. Here is an excerpt from a discourse given by him on the 21st of November 2001 on the underlying unity in all religions.
మొట్టమొదట రిలిజన్ అంటే ఏమిటి దీన్ని అర్థం చేసుకోండి.
We have to understand clearly in the first instance what religion is.
Religion means realize is religion.
Religion means realization is religion.
దేని రియలైజేషన్ చేయాలి?
What has got to be realized?
నీవెవరో మొట్టమొదటి నీవు గుర్తించినప్పుడే ఈ రిలిజియన్ నీకు చక్కగా అర్థమవుతుంది.
If you know who you are in the true sense, then you can understand what religion is.
నీ యందు ఏ ఆత్మ కలదో ఆ ఆత్మనే సర్వులందు ఉన్నది అనేటువంటి ఏకాత్మ భావాన్ని గుర్తించడమే నిజమైనటువంటి ఆధ్యాత్మికం.
The true spirituality means the self in you is present in everyone. That realization is spirituality.
అనేకత్వంలోని ఏకత్వాన్ని గుర్తించడమే ఆధ్యాత్మికము.
Spirituality wants us to know unity in diversity.
ఈ మతము అనేటువంటిది రియలైజ్ చేసుకున్నటువంటిది. నిన్ను నీవు రియలైజ్ చేసుకోవటమే, నిన్ను నీవు చూసుకోవటమే ఆధ్యాత్మికము.
Realization is religion. To know thyself, the self, is spirituality.
ఒక చిన్న ఉదాహరణము.
A small example.
ఇది నా కర్చీఫ్.
This is my kerchief.
ఇది నా టంబ్లర్ ప్లేట్.
This is my tumbler plate.
ఇది నా దేహము.
This is my body.
ఇది నా చెయ్యి.
This is my hand.
అన్నిటినీ నాది నాది అని అన్నావు.
You claim all these mine.
కానీ హూ ఆర్ యు?
Then who are you?
నీవెవరో ఒకరు ఉంటే కదా ఇవన్నీ నావి అని నువ్వు చెప్పుకోగలుగుతున్నావు.
Since you are there, you claim everything as mine.
ఇది నా కర్చీఫ్.
This is my kerchief.
Kerchief is separate from me.
Kerchief is separate from me.
This is my body.
This is my body.
Body is separate from me.
Body is separate
I
from
am not
me.
the body.
I am not the body.
But who am I?
Then who am I?
దీన్ని విచారణ చేసుకుంటే ఈ అన్నింటికి వస్తువుల యొక్క సమగ్రతకు వేరైనటువంటిదే ఒక వ్యక్తిత్వము.
As we inquire clearly, we will identify that self which is beyond all these components together.
కనుక మొట్టమొదట దీని అన్నిటికీ మాస్టర్ అయినటువంటి వాడు నీవు.
So, the master of all is you.
ఆ మాస్టరే ఆత్మ.
That master is Atma, the
ఆ
self.
ఆత్మనే సర్వుల యందు ఉన్నటువంటిది.
The same self is present in all.
ఇది ఒక ఉంగరము.
This is a ring.
ఇది ఒక చైను.
This is a chain.
ఇది ఒక కమ్మలు.
And earrings.
ఇవన్నీ ఒక విధమైనటువంటి ఒక రూపాన్ని నువ్వు చూస్తున్నావు.
These are different jewels with a form.
కానీ అన్ని చేరి ఒక బంగారుతో కూడినటువంటివే అనే సత్యాన్ని నీవు గుర్తించుకుంటే ఈ భేదాలు నీకు ఎందుకు వస్తాయి?
When once you understand they are made up out of the same gold, then you will not have differences.
కనుకనే దైవత్వమైనటువంటి దివ్యత్వం ఒక్కటే.
So divinity is only one.
ఈ దివ్యత్వంలో అనేక రూపనామములంతా కూడా నీకు కనిపించవచ్చును.
You may see many forms and names in the
కానీ
divinity.
అన్ని రూపనామములకు మూలాధారమైనటువంటిది ప్రేమ ఒక్కటే.
Love is the primordial foundation.
కనుక మతము అనేటువంటి దాన్ని ప్రక్కకు నెట్టు.
Keep aside religion.
రిలిజన్ ఆఫ్ లవ్.
It's a religion of love.
ఈ డిఫరెన్స్ అంతా ఉండటం చేతనే ఒకరికొకరి భేదములంతా కూడా పెరుగుతూ ఉన్నాయి.
Because of religious differences, there are conflicts and
ఎక్కడ
infighting.
డిఫరెన్స్ ఉంటాయో అక్కడనే మీకు జగడములు జరుగుతూ ఉంటాయి.
Where there are differences, there will be fighting.
కనుక జగడములు జరగకుండా అందరూ ఒక ఆత్మభావంతో ఆనందాన్ని పొందాలనుకుంటే ఈ డిఫరెన్స్ అంతా మనం పక్కకు నెట్టాలి.
In order to see there will be no fighting or conflicts or war, we should stand united.
లాంగ్వేజ్ ఆఫ్ ది హార్ట్, రిలిజన్ ఆఫ్ లవ్, కాస్ట్ ఆఫ్ హ్యుమానిటీ, ఇవన్నీ ఒక్కటిగా మనం తెలుసుకుంటే ఈ జగడములకు అవకాశమే ఉండదు.
When once we know the religion of love, the caste of humanity, then there will be no fighting at all.
మానవులందరూ ఒకటి.
The entire humanity is one.
ఈ మానవత్వాన్ని గుర్తించుకుంటే మతము అనేటువంటిది వేరే కనిపించదు.
When once we know the human values,
మతములన్నీ వేరు,
religions are different.
మార్గము ఒక్కటే.
Path is one.
ఈ మార్గాన్ని ఒకదాన్ని మనం వెతుకుంటే చాలు, మతములన్నీ ఏకమైపోతాయి.
If you know the path, all religions will be unified.
మతులు మంచివైనా మతమేది చెడ్డది?
If our minds are good, which religion is bad?
వినుడు భారతీయ వీరసుతుడా,
Oh, the son of
మన మతి లోపలంతా కూడా భేదాలు పెట్టుకొని మతంలో భేదాలు ఉన్నాయనుకుంటాం, చాలా పొరపాటు.
We have all our differences in our mind, but we find fault with the religions.
The English word religion comes from the original Latin root word religare. Bhagwan says religare is actually returning to the source, to go back to the source, to merge with the source. Even in Arabic, the word for religion is mazhab, which comes from the root word zahaba, which means to go back to where we have come from. What is this source? What is our truth to which we have to return? Bharatiya philosophy explains this with a very beautiful analogy of the foam, the wave, and the water. The foam that we see on the wave has empirical reality. It is something which we can see, measure, witness, and so it is called empirically real, or in Vedantic parlance, it is called vyavaharika. The wave only has an apparent reality. The wave is not real because it keeps changing its form and name, and eventually it crashes against the shore and becomes what it truly is, that is water. So the wave is apparent reality, which is called pratibhasika. The foam is dependent on the wave. The empirical is dependent on the apparent. And further, both the foam and the wave are actually temporary manifestations of water. Even when the foam and the wave lose their shape, their form, their name, and their very existence, water remains. And that Vedanta called as the transcendental reality, or paramarthika. Drawing a parallel with our own human being, the physical body is the empirical reality. The mind is like the wave, the apparent reality, and the Atman, or the self, is the transcendental reality. So religion is basically to realize that this physical body is only empirically real and is accessible to our senses. Our mind is only apparent reality, but ultimately it is the soul, or the Atman, which is the transcendental reality. The foam has to merge and become the wave has to merge and become the water. So too we have to go back to our source, which is our divine self. And this journey is what religion is all about. Religions prescribe a number of rituals, practices, to enable man to make this journey. But unfortunately, we get so enamored by these rites and rituals that we mistake the trees for the forest, and we get lost in the content and forget the form. The other way around, we get lost in the form and forget the essence. It is very rightly said, ritual plus spirit becomes spiritual, but without the spirit, a ritual remains just a mechanical practice. Today, thanks to our narrow-minded approach, distorted viewpoints, and polluted thinking, all that is left of religions are these mechanical rituals, performed with hardly any understanding of the true significance and meaning. One of the most common examples that Bhagwan gives about this is sacrifices which are prescribed in the Hindu religion. These sacrifices were never meant to kill animals or human beings. Bhagwan says sacrifice really meant killing the inner vices, the inner enemies which is within us, so that we are able to overcome and transcend our ego, and we can recognize our cosmic oneness. In fact, Bhagwan also says This is the meaning of the cross in Christianity. The vertical I stands for the human ego, the vertical line. And the horizontal one is, Swami says, striking of the ego or the vanquishing of the ego so that we realize our true inner self. In Islam, we have the jihad. Jihad means to kill the enemies and conquer them. But it does not talk about the external enemies. It is about the inner evil tendencies and the carnal desires of man which have to be killed. In fact, the term jihad comes from the root jihada, which means to struggle or strive. So jihad truly means to struggle or strive to reach Allah, to reach God. Bharatiya culture calls this process as sadhana. Sadhana basically is meant for chitta shuddhi, that is purification of the mind, and killing of the 6 vices, that is the kama, krodha, lobha, moha, mada and matsarya. Thus all religions are in fact doorways to the same goal. Paths are many, but the goal is one. And all religious practices have one goal in common, which is the vanquishing of the animal qualities in man, nurturing of the human qualities, and manifestation of divine qualities. But again, Bhagwan has reminded us that all this sadhana is meaningless. It is in vain unless love is its undercurrent. Bhagwan always preached the religion of love and stressed again and again that love must be the essence of everything we do. Many of us may recall in the early 90s when the super specialty hospital was being built and constructed, many devotees offered their services, some in the form of financial aid. But Bhagwan, as we recall, celebrated only one offering of a young student who then stayed in the hostel. This boy had an urge, I should also participate in this divine mission. And so what did he do? He washed his own clothes for a couple of months, saving the money that he would have otherwise given to the dhobi. And we recall, as we all were witness to it, he placed a 100-rupee note in an envelope for a multi-billion-dollar hospital and wrote a letter, Bhagwan, I want to be part of your mission, but I don't have anything which I can offer. Here is a 100-rupee note. If you can lay at least one brick in the wall of the hospital, my life will be fulfilled. Bhagwan was so ecstatic. He came out, told everybody about this and celebrated this offering because he was not enamored by the 100-rupee note, but by the love which was the undercurrent. Therefore, love is the essence of all religions. Brothers and sisters, Bhagwan came amidst us in the physical form as an avatar, not to establish any new religion, but to establish unity of all religion. He preaches love and oneness as the very essence of all religions and urges a Christian to become a better Christian, a Muslim to become a better Muslim, a Jew to become a better Jew, and a Hindu to become a better Hindu. Coming back to the analogy of the foam and the wave and the water, we find this similarity or this particular principle in all religions. When Hanuman was captured by Ravana and he was arrested and brought to the court, Ravana said, "Who are you?" Hanuman gave a profound introduction to himself. He said, "Ravana, if I think I am the physical body, I am the slave of Lord Rama, he is my master. If I think I am the mind, I am only a reflection, he is the object. And at the spiritual level, Rama and I are one." The Parsis, in their striving to reach the God of fire, Ahura Mazda, go through the 3 stages. The light is in me, I am in the light, I am the light. Jesus first declared, "I am the messenger of God." Later he said, "I am the Son of God." And when he was on the cross and gave his life for humanity, he declared, "I and my Father are one." Let us all pray that we also be part of Bhagwan's mission as his messengers. And in serving as his messengers, let us discover that we are actually his children. And in living as his very children, let us discover that we and he are actually one. Let the religion of love bind us back to our eternal source of oneness once again. With these few words, I conclude my opening remarks. And now I have the pleasure of inviting the first speaker of the symposium, Professor Akhtarul Wasey. Professor Akhtarul Wasey, Head Department of Islamic Studies, Jamia, Milla, Islamia, New Delhi, was born in 1951. He completed his schooling and pre-university from Aligarh Muslim University. He then went on to complete his BA Honours, Bachelor of Theology, Master of Theology, and MA in Islamic Studies from the same institution. He joined as a lecturer in Islamic Studies in Jamia, Milla, Islamia in 1978. He also taught at the Aligarh Muslim University. In 1987, he was promoted as reader and then as professor in 1991. He is currently engaged in teaching and research and is the head Department of Islamic Studies, Jamia Milla Islamia. He is also the honorary director, Zakir Hussain Institute of Islamic Studies. He is currently supervising 7 doctoral research scholars. Professor Wasey is the editor of a number of journals and magazines at the Zakir Hussain Institute of Islamic Studies. In addition to these responsibilities, he also holds several other positions. He is Vice Chairman, Urdu Academic Delhi, Government of NCT of Delhi, General Secretary, South Asia Interreligious Council on HIV/AIDS in collaboration with UNICEF and World Conference of Religions for Peace, New York, India Interfaith Coalition on HIV/AIDS, India, and Vice President, Foundation of SARC Writers and Literature. Professor Wasey was one of the first from the Jamia academic fraternity to be awarded the Fulbright Fellowship during the period September to December 2008. He is member of Academic Council, Board of Studies, Board of Research Studies, review boards, and editorial boards at several educational institutions, and also a member of various committees of the Government of India. He has a number of publications to his credit. He has published over a dozen books, edited 18 books, translated 6 books, authored 16 articles in special commemorative volumes, and he has to his credit over 450 articles and reviews in Urdu, Hindi, and English. He has published in various journals and magazines, and also he has over 400 radio and 250 TV talks and other programs to his credit. Professor Wasey has won a number of fellowships, scholarships, other prestigious awards. To name a few, he won the Madhya Pradesh Urdu Academy's Hakim Kamrul Hasan All India Award for contribution to Urdu language and literature in 2009-2010. Sir Syed Ahmad Khan Award for Interfaith Understanding, Aligarh Alumni Association, New York. 1996 Maulana Muhammad Ali Jawhar Award, New Delhi, and 1985 award from the Urdu Academy, Delhi on Sir Syed Ki Talimi Tehreek. Professor Wasey has toured extensively across the globe from 1976 to date on several academic and semi-academic matters and has visited a number of countries across all continents of the world. So now it's our great privilege to have Professor Akhtarul Wasey addressing us. Professor Akhtarul Wasey.
शुरू करता हूं अल्लाह के नाम से जो सर्वव्यापी है, सर्वशक्तिमान है, जो करुणा, दया और प्रेरणा का स्रोत है और जो इस सृष्टि का रचयिता भी है और हमारा पालनहार भी। दुरूद और सलाम उसके अंतिम दिव्य दूत हज़रत मोहम्मद सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम, उनके सहयोगियों पर और उनके परिवारजनों पर। बुजुर्गों, दोस्तों, इस देश के आशा स्वरूप भाइयों और बहनों, मैं सबसे पहले आपकी सेवा में गुरु पूर्णिमा की बधाई पेश करता हूं, मुबारकबाद पेश करता हूं। बात को शुरू करने से पहले मेरे लिए ये ज़रूरी है कि मैं शुक्रिया अदा करूं, धन्यवाद दूं, अपना आभार व्यक्त करूं श्री श्रीनिवासन जी के लिए, श्री चीमा के लिए और उनके तमाम सहयोगियों के लिए कि जिन्होंने मुझे ये इज्जत, ये सआदत, ये प्रिविलेज दी कि मैं यहाँ पर आऊँ। और मैं आपके सामने ये बात कहना चाहता हूँ कि मैं यहाँ पर एक पिलग्रिम के तौर पे आया हूँ। एक ऐसी जगह जहां से कि हमें सबक दिया गया, सबक मिला, और वो सबक और सीख आज भी जारी है कि हम किस तरह से सेवा, समर्पण, साधना और आराधना को अपने जीवन में एक मिसाल के तौर पर अपनाएं, उदाहरण के तौर पर अपनाएं और उसकी जीती जागती तस्वीर बन जाएं। मुझे कहा गया है कि आई शुड स्पीक इन बोथ द लैंग्वेजेस एंड माई स्पीच मस्ट बी बाइलिंगुअल because of the fact that there are some people, those might not be in a position to understand Hindi, which is certainly, I am not very proficient in that, but being a North Indian, I am having that flavor. So first of all, I was telling that it's a privilege and pleasure both for me to be here as a pilgrim. And I am grateful to the organizers for inviting me to speak about Islam. Islam, as we know, is basically rooted in Silm, S-I-L-M. Silm means salamti, peace, tranquility. And Islam stands for peace and in the commonality of mankind. Many people are thinking that Muhammad, peace be upon him, was the person who has initiated the Islam. That's not the fact. Being a Muslim, it's necessary for me to become a Muslim that I must confess, profess, and have faith that Allah is one in form and in virtues. But I also have the faith that Muhammad is his last messenger. उसके दिव्य दूत हैं. लेकिन सिर्फ ये कहने से कोई मुसलमान नहीं हो जाता. जैसे आप ये कहते हैं, as soon as you profess, you confess, you pronounce that Allah is one, Muhammad is his messenger, you have to again pronounce, declare and have a faith that amantu billahi wa malaikatihi wa kutubihi wa rusulihi. I have a faith in Allah, in God, in Ishwar, whatever you want to give his name to him, and his angels, his books, and his prophets. And according to a Muslim, nobody can be a Muslim until and unless he is not having a faith in all the books and all the prophets to whom we know or do not know, whose names are referred in Quran or not, because Allah had said himself in Quran Hakim, the holy book, that لِكُلِّ قَوْمٍ had, we have sent men to show direction to the humanity, the prophets to every nation, every community. Therefore, it's obligatory, mandatory, compulsory for every Muslim to respect all religions, all prophets, all the books, and whether we know the names or not. This is not a fact. This is a fact. This is not a fact that Muslims can, a person can be a Muslim just having a faith in Muhammad and none else. We must have a faith. Therefore, it's always told to us that we must know the fact about unity of religion. This is a golden chain of the prophets, which starts from Adam and reaches to Muhammad. That's the basic thing which we must know. And therefore, every Muslim who is a devout Muslim, who is really a Muslim in good spirit, he will respect all religions. Now, another question which comes. You see, people can ask us is it not a hypocrisy that you people are saying that every religion can be respected? Why not? According to me and according to faith which I profess and practice, that religious plurality or religious diversity is basically just because of the design and desire of God. Otherwise, Allah or Ishwar or God is so powerful, so Sarv Shaktiman, so Taqatwar, so Muqallibul Qulub, He can control your hearts, He can change your hearts. Why He has not molded you in one religious form? Whatever has been desired and whatever is the will of God, we must respect to that also. Religion is basically a conviction of mine to a particular tradition, and that depends upon the freedom of conscience which I have, and that is my choice, and that should be my choice. We must not forget another thing. Now few things are there about what is the position of men or women in Islam. The position of men and women is very clear. Prophet Muhammad in his last sermon had clearly told all the creatures, men or women, are basically the son and daughter of Adam and Eve. And Adam and Eve were made of clay, मिट्टी से बने थे. इसलिए काले को गोरे पर, गोरे को काले पर, अरब को नॉन अरब पर, नॉन अरब को अरब पर कोई किसी तरह का क्या में प्रभुत्व नहीं है, कोई सुपीरियरिटी नहीं है. अगर किसी आदमी को कोई प्रभुत्व है, उसकी कोई फजीलत है, वो वर्चुअस है या नहीं है, इसका फैसला उसके रंग के आधार पर, उसकी भाषा के आधार पर, उसके क्षेत्र के आधार पर नहीं होगा, बल्कि इस पर होगा कि वो कितना पाकबाज है, कितना अल्लाह से डरने वाला है. और अल्लाह से डरने वाला कौन होता है? जिसे तकवा कहते हैं. अल्लाह से डरने वाला वो होता है जो अपने रब को, अपने पैदा करने वाले को पूरी तरह से याद रखता है, भुलाता नहीं है, और साथ में जो जिसको उसने पैदा किया है उन सबकी सेवा करता है, उनके लिए समर्पित होता है. जी, शायर ने इस बात को इस तरह कहा, दर्द दिल के वास्ते पैदा किया इंसान को, दर्द दिल के वास्ते पैदा किया इंसान को, वरना तात के लिए कम न थे कर्रो मलिक. आदमी को जो पैदा किया गया है वो सेवा के लिए पैदा किया गया है, समर्पित होने के लिए पैदा किया गया है. अगर अल्लाह को, अगर भगवान को, अगर ईश्वर को जरूरत थी कि उसकी इबादत की जाए, उसकी पूजा और अर्चना की जाए, तो उसके लिए तो फरिश्ते और एंजल्स जो थे वो पहले से मौजूद थे. आपको मुझे पैदा करने की क्या जरूरत थी? ये है इस्लाम की पोजीशन, जिसे हमें समझना चाहिए. दूसरी बात जो है वो ये, मुझे बेहद खुशी है रंगा राजन साहब ने जिस तरह से पूरी तरह से आज के इस सेमिनार का, इस गोष्ठी का, इस सिंपोजियम का को शुरू करते हुए उन्होंने अपनी बात कही. उसमें उन्होंने जिहाद का तस्करा भी किया. एक बात तो यह कि जिहाद के माने होली वार है ही नहीं. हुआ यह कि जब यहां ब्रिटिशर्स आए तो उन्होंने जो टर्मिनोलॉजी थी उनका जो अनुवाद कर दिया वो हमने पकड़ लिया. चूंकि हमें अंग्रेजी नहीं आती थी, उन्हें पूरी तरह अरबी नहीं आती. समझे? जिहाद के माने हैं मोस्ट सुप्रीम स्ट्रगल, मोस्ट सुप्रीम स्ट्रगल. और मोस्ट सुप्रीम स्ट्रगल कौन सी होती है? जिसे जिहाद अकबर कहते हैं, सबसे बड़ा जिहाद. वो होता है जो इंसान अपने नफ्स से करता है, अपने इविल डिजायर्स से करता है, अपने इल जो विल है उसके खिलाफ करता है, जो उसके यहाँ भ्रम है, भ्रांति है, घृणा है, उसके यहाँ जो गुस्सा है, जो क्रोध है, जो ईर्ष्या है, उसके खिलाफ जो करता है वो जिहाद अकबर है, वो सबसे बड़ा जिहाद है, वो मोस्ट सुप्रीम स्ट्रगल है। आज जो कुछ लोग धर्म के नाम पर या इस्लाम के नाम पर करते हैं वो जिहाद नहीं है, फिसाद है, और फिसादी कभी जिहादी नहीं हो सकते। इस बात को समझना चाहिए। अगर आप जिहाद को भारतीय दर्शन के परिवेश में समझना चाहते हैं तो उसके लिए आपको कुरुक्षेत्र के मैदान में चलना पड़ेगा, जहां पर कि अर्जुन जो हैं उन्हें संकोच है कि वो किस तरह से शक्ति का प्रदर्शन और प्रयोग अपनों के खिलाफ करें। ऐसे में जो कुछ कर्म योगी श्री कृष्ण ने अर्जुन से कहा, और हर हिंदू घराने में और हर भारतीय दर्शन के संग्रहालय में जो किताब हमारे लिए गीता के रूप में मौजूद है, जो कुछ गीता में कहा कृष्ण ने वही इस्लाम का जिहाद है, उसके अलावा कुछ नहीं। इस बात को हमें समझने की जरूरत है, और इस तरह से अगर हम समझें तो हमें यह पता चलेगा कि धर्म जो हैं वो दीवारें नहीं खींचते हैं बल्कि दीवारों को गिराते हैं। हमारी परेशानी यह है कि हमने धर्म के नाम पर व्यवसाय का बना लिया है, धर्म को हमने धर्म के नाम पर दुकानें खोल ली हैं, और उसकी वजह से सारी परेशानी होती है। धर्मों का काम लोगों को जोड़ना है, लोगों को तोड़ना नहीं है। कुरान के अंदर मैं किसी और की बात नहीं करता, आप कुरान को जाकर चेक कर सकते हैं। कुरान में कहा गया ला इकराह फिद्दीन, धर्म में कोई जोर जबरदस्ती नहीं है। देयर इज नो कंपल्शन इन रिलीजन, इट्स अपॉन योर कॉन्शियंस, योर ओन चॉइस, योर ओन विल, वॉट एवर पाथ यू वांट टू अडॉप्ट, ऑफर और ऑप्ट फॉर यू एंड फॉर योर डियर एंड नियर वंस। देयर कैन बी नो कंपल्शन। दोस्तों, यही बात खत्म नहीं की गई, बल्कि यह भी कहा गया, कुरान कहता है, मैं नहीं कह रहा हूं, और कुरान मुसलमानों की आस्था के अनुसार ऊपर वाले की क्या में उतारी हुई किताब है, मोहम्मद साहब की लिखी हुई किताब नहीं है, मोहम्मद साहब पे अवतरित की गई जी। उसी तरह से जैसे कि अगर आप देखें तो ऋग्वेद के लिए हम कहते हैं कि दो तरह की है, श्रुति है और स्मृति है जी। तो ये श्रुति है कुरान भी, जो ऊपर वाले ने नाजिल किया मोहम्मद के ऊपर, और मोहम्मद सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम के द्वारा हमें और आपको मिला। उसमें कहा गया दूसरों के खुदाओं को बुरा मत कहो, दूसरों के खुदाओं को बुरा मत कहो, चूंकि बदले में वो तुम्हारे खुदा को बुरा कहेंगे, और इस तरह से एक बिला वजह का फिसाद पैदा होगा और एक तरह का झगड़ा पैदा होगा। इस झगड़े को मिटाने का तरीका यह है कि सब अपने अपने रास्तों पर रहें, और उसको कहा गया कुरान के शब्दों में, लकुम दीनकुम वलियदीन, तुम्हारा दीन, तुम्हारा धर्म तुम्हारे लिए है, और मेरा दीन और मेरा धर्म मेरे लिए है। योर रिलीजन इज फॉर यू, माई रिलीजन इज फॉर मी। इसमें क्या परेशानी की बात है, हमें यह समझना चाहिए। दोस्तों, हमारे लिए यह सौभाग्य की बात है, और एक भारतीय मुसलमान के रूप में मुझे इस बात को कहने में कोई संकोच नहीं, बल्कि संकोच की क्या बात है, मैं गर्व महसूस करता हूं और गौरव महसूस करता हूं कि हम एक ऐसे देश में पैदा हुए हैं जहां दुनिया की तमाम धार्मिक मान्यताएं आके जमा हो गई हैं, और जहां पर कि दुनिया की जितनी भाषाओं को संविधान मान्यता देता है उसकी दुनिया किसी तरह से तसव्वुर भी नहीं कर सकती है। और हम उन लोगों में हैं जो नस्लवाद को नहीं मानते, लेकिन दुनिया की सारी नस्लें अगर आपको कहीं मिलेंगी तो वो भारत के अंदर मिलेंगी, और अगर दुनिया के जितने भी मौसम हो सकते हैं अगर वो कहीं एक ही समय में देखने हो तो वो आपको इसी मुल्क में मिलेंगे। ऊपर वाले ने जो ये ऊपर वाले का वरदान है, और इस पर हमें खुश होना चाहिए, और ये हमारी वो धरोहर है जिसे हमें संभाल के रखना चाहिए। और मुझे खुशी है कि ये काम यहां से हुआ, और ये काम आज भी हो रहा है। 30 साल पहले बाबा ने इसी तरह का एक आयोजन किया था और आप फिर इस आयोजन को कर रहे हैं, ये बड़ी बात है। वो बराबर ये संदेश देते रहे, वो यूनिटी ऑफ मैनकाइंड की बात करते रहे, वो ह्यूमैनिटी की बात करते रहे। हम समझते हैं हमारी आपकी मान्यताएं और आस्थाएं अलग अलग हो सकती हैं, लेकिन हमारे और आपके लिए मंजिल एक ही है। और मैं जब ये बात कहता हूं तो इसके लिए मैं कहीं और से नहीं बल्कि हिंदुस्तानी से एक मिसाल लेता हूं। हमारी धार्मिक मान्यताओं का हाल वही है जो गंगा और जमुना का है, जो ब्रह्मपुत्र का है, जो नर्मदा का है, जो कावेरी का है और दूसरी नदियों का है। लेकिन आपने कभी गौर किया इन नदियों के स्रोत कोई हों कहीं हों, ये सब चलती हैं, चलने के बाद कोई जाके अरब सागर में मिलती है, कोई बंगाल की खाड़ी में मिलती है, लेकिन आखिर में जब मिलकर एक विशाल हिंद महासागर को बनाती हैं। इसी तरह से हिंदुस्तान बनता है इन धार्मिक मान्यताओं। इस बात को समझ। एक बात और वो भी मैं इस्लाम के हवाले से आपसे करना चाहता हूं। इस्लाम में एक बात और जो है वो ये है कि मरने के बाद के मसले, आप अगर गौर कीजिए तो मरने के बाद जिंदा हिंदू धर्म में भी होना है और मरने के बाद जिंदा इस्लाम में भी होना है। लेकिन हिंदू धर्म के अंदर एक आवागमन की प्रक्रिया है, एक तसव्वुर है, और इस्लाम में भी है। हमारा ईमान है वल बासे बादल मौत, मरने के बाद फिर जिंदा होना है, और जिंदा होने के बाद समर्पित होना है अपने पैदा करने वाले को, और उसके सामने अपना लोखा जेखा पेश करना है कि जो कुछ हमने जीवन में किया। और इसके लिए अगर आप गौर करें तो आवागमन के उस तसव्वुर को ले लीजिए या मरने के बाद जिंदा होने को ले लीजिए, दोनों में एक ही चीज है, और उसका जो मूल वो रूप है उसको समझने की जरूरत है मेरे नजदीक। वो क्या है? जब मुझे ये बताया जाता है कि तुझे मरने के बाद जिंदा होना है और जिंदा होने के बाद अपने रब के सामने पेश होना है, और रब के सामने पेश होकर जो कुछ तेरा कर्म यहां था उसका लेखा जोखा देना है, और उसके मुताबिक तेरे बारे में फैसला होगा कि तू नरक में जाएगा या स्वर्ग में जाएगा। तो इसका क्या मतलब है कि मुझे एक जिम्मेदार रिस्पॉन्सिबल ह्यूमन बीइंग बनाने की पूरी ये प्रक्रिया है इस आस्था के द्वारा और मान्यता के द्वारा। यही अगर आप देखें तो आवागमन में है, अच्छे कर्म करोगे तो अच्छा अंजाम होगा जी, और बुरे कर्म करोगे तो बुरा रूप लोगे। तो मालूम ये हुआ दोनों का मतलब मानव को मानवता से जोड़ना है। तरीके अलग अलग हैं, उसके लिए अपने अपने अंदाज से लोगों ने बात की है, धर्मों ने बात की है। इस पर भी हमें क्या मैं बजाय इसके कि डिस्प्यूट करें, उसकी जो मूल है, उसका जो सार है, उसकी जो स्पिरिट है, उसे समझने की कोशिश करना चाहिए। होता क्या है, हम अच्छा इंसान बनने के बजाय इन झगड़ों में पड़ जाते हैं, और नतीजा ये होता है कि किसी और का बुरा करें ना करें, अपना बुरा करते हैं। एक और बात जो है वो ये है कि इस्लाम में महिलाओं का क्या स्थान है। क्योंकि इस्लाम के हवाले से दुनिया में जो घेराबंदी हो रही है उसमें बहुत सी बातें जो कही जाती हैं, उसमें यह भी है कि महिलाओं के लिए उसमें कोई विशेष स्थान नहीं है। मैं आपसे कहता हूं, कुरान को उठा के देख लीजिए, अल्लाह ने जहां मर्दों की खुसूसियात, विशेषताएं, वर्चूज बताए हैं, सेम उसी जगह एक ही उसके अंदर सांस के अंदर उसने महिलाओं के भी वही वर्चूज, वही खूबियां, वही विशेषताएं बताई हैं। मर्द और औरत को कुरान जो है वो एक दूसरे के लिए वस्त्र के रूप में पेश करता है। लफ्ज यही है कि औरत और मर्द, स्त्री और पुरुष एक दूसरे के लिए क्या में लिबास की मानिंद हैं, वस्त्रों की मानिंद हैं, जो एक दूसरे की पर्दापोशी करते हैं, एक दूसरे के को छुपाते हैं, शेल्टर देते हैं। दोनों एक दूसरे से अलग नहीं हो सकते। आप मुझे बताइए, अगर लिबास कहा गया है, ड्रेस कहा गया है, गारमेंट कहा गया है, वस्त्र कहा गया है, तो क्या 5 फीट वाले को 3 फीट का लिबास सही हो जाएगा? ये दोनों को एक दूसरे के बराबर बताने की कोशिश थी जो की गई। दूसरी बात जो है वो ये कि जितने भी एम्पावरमेंट के तसव्वुर हो सकते हैं, कल्पनाएं आप कर सकते हैं, वो सारी की सारी इस्लाम में रसूल के, पैगंबर साहब के जीवन काल से आपको मिल जाएंगी। इकोनॉमिक एम्पावरमेंट का सिंबल उनकी बीवी हैं जो मक्के की बड़ी एक्सपोर्टर इंपोर्टर थी। और प्रॉफिट होने के बाद भी ना आप कुरान की कोई आयत दिखा सकते हैं और ना हदीस को रसूल का कोई कथन दिखा सकते हैं जिसमें कहा गया हो कि अब तक सब सही था, लेकिन एक खदीजा, एक पैगंबर की बीवी, अब जो है तुम एक प्रॉफिट की बीवी हो गई हो। नाउ यू हैव बिकम द वाइफ ऑफ द प्रॉफिट, देयरफॉर यू शुड वाइंड अप योर होल बिजनेस। शी वाज अ ग्रेट एक्सपोर्टर इंपोर्टर ऑफ हर टाइम, एंड मोहम्मद वाज बेसिकली एंगेज्ड बाय हर as his trade representative, and his trade was spread over from Yemen to Syria. But she had never been asked by God or by the Prophet, now because you have become the wife of the Prophet, therefore you should wind up your business. Whatever was permissible for the wife of the Prophet, who happens to be the mother of the Muslim Ummah, how that can be not permissible for the daughters of Ummah. Therefore, as far as the educational empowerment is concerned, the wife of the second wife of the Prophet Aisha was the great educator of the Ummah or the community, and she has given us 1/3 of Islamic law, Sharia, that we owe to her, and whatever was good for her, how that can be bad for the daughter of the Ummah again. As far as the political empowerment is concerned, political empowerment, we are having many examples, including from the field of Karbala, where the granddaughter of the Prophet was martyred. Then the granddaughter of the Prophet had led the rest of the people to the court of the Damascus and pleaded for the case of her own brother and others martyrs. As far as spiritual empowerment is symbol, Rabia Basri is a great name in the Islamic history. So therefore, whatever is happening, that is not because of Islam. If there is something not good is there as far as Muslim women is concerned, that is not because of Islam. That is because of male chauvinism, which has no regional or no religious color, but that's basically the general psyche of a man to dominate the women folk. In that way, now you come another problem. Whether can we live together? Whether the Hindus and Muslims, Christians and Muslims, Jews and Muslims, Buddhists and Muslims, Parsis and Muslims, Jainis and Muslims, and people of all other indigenous faith and Muslims can live together? Yes, why not? Nobody can prevent them. Nobody can create any obstacle in their relationship, because we are all creature of God. Muhammad had said, you people are basically the servants of Allah and the descendants of Adam. Therefore, you must remain together. And as in Hindu Dharma, Vasudhe Kutumbakam is basically the mool mantra for the survival of mankind. Prophet Muhammad had said, Al Khalqu Ayalullah, Samast Jeev Jantu, not Manav, Samast Jeev Jantu, Bhagavan ke Kutumbi. All creatures belong to the family of God. That is the saying of the Muhammad, peace be upon him. दूसरी बात जो है वो ये कि जिंदगी के हर मैदान में हम एक दूसरे के साथ पूरी तरह से अपने ताल्लुकात बना के रख सकते हैं। हमें कोई उसमें परेशानी नहीं है इस बात का हमें ख्याल रखना चाहिए। दोस्तों, और बातें अगर हम करें तो जिंदगी के अंदर हमारे जो मामलात हैं वो इस दुनिया को बनाने के लिए हमें सोचना चाहिए। मेरी आस्था ये है और मेरा ख्याल ये है कि इसमें दुनिया के बहुत सी धार्मिक आस्थाएं और मान्यताएं शामिल हैं जो ये कहती हैं कि जन्नत से आदम को निकाला गया और हव्वा को निकाला गया और निकालने के बाद इस दुनिया में भेजा गया। और बहुत दिलचस्प बात है जो मैं आपसे यहाँ शेयर कर लूँ, वो ये कि जो मुसलमानों की आस्था और मान्यता है उसके मुताबिक आदम जो हैं वो हिंदुस्तान में उतारे गए थे। इसलिए इंडिया इज नॉट मेयरली ए मदरलैंड फॉर मी बट ए फादरलैंड टू। इसीलिए अगर आपको देखा हो तो क्या में डीप साउथ आप जाइए तो एक आदम का पुल कहलाता था जी, वो इसीलिए एडम, समझे। तो बेसिकली मुसलमानों की ये भी आस्था है। और दूसरी बात एक और बता दूं, हिंदुस्तान के संदर्भ में इकबाल पोइट का नाम आपने सुना होगा, सारे जहां से अच्छा हिंदुस्तान हमारा, जिनकी वो है, उनकी एक बड़ी नज़्म है हिंदुस्तान के बारे में जिसमें उन्होंने गुणगान किए। उसमें उन्होंने एक पंक्ति कही है, उसमें उन्होंने कहा है, मीरे अरब को आई ठंडी हवा जहां से, मेरा वतन वही है, मेरा वतन वही है। मीरे अरब से मुराद मोहम्मद साहब हैं। मोहम्मद साहब की एक हदीस है, कथनी है, जिसमें उन्होंने कहा कि मुझे हिंदुस्तान से ठंडी हवाएं आती। तो इस तरह से मैं आपसे जो बात अर्ज कर रहा था, इस एतबार से अगर देखें तो हिंदुस्तान जो है वो हमारे लिए बहुत अहम है। और जब सवाल आता है, लोग करते हैं कि धर्म और वतन, आप इनमें से किसको, देश को किसको प्यार करते हैं? तो मैं कहता हूं मैं दोनों को प्यार करता हूं, दोनों का एहतराम करता हूं। इसलिए कि जब मेरी मां की कोख में मेरा बीज पड़ा था तो मैं एक भारतीय मुसलमान महिला की कोख में मेरा बीज पड़ा था। और इस तरह से मेरे दोनों रिश्ते जो हैं वो अपनी जगह अमर हैं और उनका रिश्ता मेरी मातृभूमि से भी है और मेरी माँ की कोख से भी है। इसलिए इन चीज़ों में पड़ना ही नहीं चाहिए और इन सबको एक तरह से मानना चाहिए। रसूलुल्लाह सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम ने कहा है कि वतन की मोहब्बत ईमान का जुज है। The love for your motherland is basically an essential ingredient of your faith. That is the saying of Prophet Muhammad. इस बात को भी समझना चाहिए। तो जो लोग इस तरह के भ्रम और भ्रांतियां फैलाते हैं या बेवकूफ़ी की बातें करते हैं, उनसे कोई धर्म का लेना देना नहीं है, इस बात को समझना चाहिए। एक बात मैं और कह दूं जो लोगों की समझ में क्या मैं अक्सर जिससे क्या मैं गलत फहमी पैदा होती है, वो ये है कि मैं जब यहां खड़ा हुआ हूं तो भारतीय संस्कृति की जो धरोहर है उसका रिश्ता मेरा 1000 साल से है, 1200 साल से है, 1300 साल से है। मैं कहता हूं नहीं, भारतीय सांस्कृतिक धरोहर जो है उसका मेरा रिश्ता उतना ही पुराना है जितना कि भारतीय सांस्कृतिक धरोहर है। और बहैसियत मुसलमान के मैं ये बात डंके की चोट पर यहां नहीं कह रहा हूं, हर जगह कहता हूं और इसको सबको मानना पड़ता है। मेरे लिए थोड़ा सा फर्क है, उसे आपको भी मानना चाहिए और मुझे भी मानना चाहिए। वो ये, जब मैं कहता हूं कि ये सांस्कृतिक धरोहर मेरी है तो राम भी मेरे हैं और कृष्ण भी मेरे हैं। फर्क एक है, फर्क एक है। आपके लिए वो भगवान हो सकते हैं, मेरे लिए वो मर्यादा पुरुषोत्तम है। आपके लिए कृष्ण भगवान हो सकते हैं, मेरे लिए वो बाल गोपाल हैं और कर्म योगी हैं। वो अर्जुन के सारथी हैं। चूंकि महाभारत कुरुक्षेत्र में खत्म नहीं हो गई, बल्कि हम सबके जीवन में हर वक्त एक महाभारत होती है। ये दूसरी बात है कि हम खुद ही अपने अर्जुन होते हैं, खुद ही अपने कृष्ण होते हैं। जो उनसे प्रेरणा ले लेते हैं वो कामयाब हो जाते हैं और जो नहीं लेते वो नाकाम हो जाते हैं। तो ये फर्क जरूर है, इसे आपको मानना चाहिए। मैं आपका अधिकार मानता हूं, आपको मेरे क्या में जो भावनाएं हैं उनको भी समझना चाहिए। दोस्तों, मैं बहैसियत मुसलमान के आपसे एक बात और कहता हूं। जब मैं यहां की संस्कृति की बात करता हूं, यहां की परंपराओं की बात करता हूं, तो मैं ये भी मानता हूं कि जो कुछ कहा गया है उसमें सबके लिए बराबर का सबक है। दोस्तों, दुनिया में सागर मंथन एक दफे नहीं हुआ था। सागर मंथन हर वक्त जारी रहता है, रूप बदलते रहते हैं जी। जब सागर मंथन होता है और जो होता रहता है और हर पल हो रहा है आपके मेरे जीवन में, आपके मेरे समाज में, उसमें होता क्या है? उसमें होता यही है कि राक्षस जो हैं वो तो अमृत ले भागते हैं और विष को मानवता के विनाश के लिए छोड़ जाते हैं। ऐसे में कोई शिव आता है, भोलेनाथ बनकर विष को ग्रहण करता है, नीलकंठ बन जाता है। आप और मैं कितने हैं जो मानवता को बचाने के लिए नीलकंठ बनने को तैयार हैं? यही मानवता का इस पर भविष्य निर्भर करता है। और आप कहें कि मुसलमान हो के तुम ये बात कर रहे हो, मैंने फिर कहा, शिव आपके लिए भगवान हैं, मेरे लिए वो मानवता को बचाने वाले एक प्रतीक के रूप में, एक सिंबल के रूप में मेरे लिए सर्वमान्य हैं। और मैं उनका एहतराम करता हूं, उनकी इज्जत करता हूं, उनका आदर करता हूं, उनका सम्मान करता हूं। और मैं समझता हूं कि दुनिया के हर समाज को एक नीलकंठ की जरूरत होती है। ये बातें मैंने इसलिए कही कि ये गलतफहमियां दूर होनी चाहिए। मैं मुसलमान हूं, मैं अल्लाह को एक मानता हूं, उसकी जात के एतबार से भी, सिफात के एतबार से। मैं मोहम्मद साहब को मानता हूं, मैं कुरान को मानता हूं, मैं मरने के बाद जिंदा होने पर ईमान रखता हूं। मुझे इस बात पर कोई वो नहीं है कि दुनिया का कोई ऐसा देश नहीं है और दुनिया का कोई ऐसा राष्ट्र नहीं है और दुनिया की कोई ऐसी नेशन नहीं है जहां पे के ऊपर वाले ने अपने मार्गदर्शक और दिव्य दूत न भेजे हों। मुझे उनके नाम मालूम हो या ना मालूम हो, मुझे सबका सम्मान करना चाहिए। अगर मैं उनका इकरार नहीं करता तो मुझे उनका इनकार बिल्कुल नहीं करना चाहिए, क्योंकि जो बात पता ना हो उस पर आदमी जो है असमंजस में है तो फिर एक फैसले पे नहीं पहुंच जाना चाहिए, उसे इसका ख्याल रखना चाहिए। ये असल बात है जो कि इस्लाम की मूल रूप से है। मैंने आपके सामने कुछ बातें कही हैं, हो सकता है कि ये बातें कुछ आपकी समझ में आई हों, कोई बात आपको अच्छी ना लगी हो तो मैं उसके लिए माफ़ी चाहता हूँ। लेकिन मैंने ईमानदारी से जो कुछ सच था वो आपके सामने कहा, चूंकि अगर मैं यहां भी सच नहीं कहूंगा तो फिर कहां सच कहूंगा, क्योंकि मेरे नजदीक तो खुदा हर जगह है, खुदा हर जगह है। और खुदा को अगर कोई चीज नापसंद है तो 3 चीजें नापसंद है। एक, अपने साथ किसी को शरीक करना, दूसरे मानवता को नुकसान पहुंचाना, और तीसरे झूठ बोलना। हम 3 चीजों से बचेंगे तो दुनिया को एक दफा फिर इंसानों के रहने के काबिल जगह बनाएंगे। खुद दोस्तों, आपसे मुझे सिर्फ एक बात कहनी है, जो लोग हमें आपको लड़ाने पे आमादा रहते हैं उन्हें सिर्फ एक बात बताइएगा, लड़ने के लिए भी पैरों के नीचे जमीन चाहिए। जमीन न रहेगी तो लड़ोगे ही कहां पर? देश को बचाओ, देश को बनाओ, मानवता को बचाओ। असल मैसेज हमारा और आपका यही होना चाहिए। यही आज का मूल मंत्र है, यही आज की ज़रूरत है। अगर हमने ऐसा कर लिया तो वो आदम और वो हव्वा जिनकी हम और आप औलाद हैं, जो जन्नत से निकाल कर ज़मीन पर भेजे गए थे कि इस ज़मीन को जन्नत और स्वर्ग बना दें, क्या हम ऐसा करने में सफल हो पाएंगे? ऐसा करने में सफल हुए तो हम बुनियादी तौर पर उस मिशन को पूरा करेंगे जिसको इस जगह आराम करने वाले ने आपको संदेश के रूप में और अपने मार्गदर्शन के रूप में दिया था, और जो सारी धार्मिक मान्यताओं की मूल आत्मा है। बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद।
Thank Thank you, Professor Wasey, for that most inspiring and thought-provoking talk. Before I invite the second speaker for the day, let us once again hear to Bhagwan. Here's an excerpt from a divine discourse given by Bhagwan on the 23rd of July 1989, highlighting the fact that all religions advocated only peace and no religion ever taught violence.
ప్రాచీన మతమైనటువంటి భారతీయ మతము
Ancient Bharatiya religion,
ఇది కేవలము ఒక వైదిక సాంప్రదాయమును పురస్కరించుకొని
it is in the context of the culture of
దీనిని
Veda.
హైందవ సాంప్రదాయం అని కూడాను ప్రబోధిస్తూ
This has been explained as the Hindava
లోక
culture.
సమస్త సుఖినో భవంతు అని సర్వుల యొక్క క్షేమను కూడాను లక్ష్యం అందించుకుని ప్రబోధిస్తూ వచ్చింది.
This has always expounded that let the entire humanity and the world be happy and be prosperous.
ఇస్లాం మతం యొక్క ఆశయములు కూడాను ఎవియే.
The same thing is the aspiration of Islam also.
ఇస్లాం అనగా పర్షియన్ లాంగ్వేజ్ లోపల దీనికి అనేక విధమైన పవిత్రమైన అర్థములు ఉంటున్నవి.
There are quite a few sacred meanings available in Persian language for the word Islam.
ఇస్లాం అనగా శరణు అని ఒకటి, రెండవది ఒక విధమైన శాంతి అని కూడా రెండు అర్థములు.
One of the meanings of Islam is Saranu, surrender. The other is peace.
భగవంతునికి శరణాగతుడై తోటి మానవుల చేత శాంతి జీవితంలో గడపమని ఈ యొక్క ఇస్లాం మతం యొక్క అంతరార్థము.
The inner meaning of the Islamic religion is that let every man surrender himself to God and make his life peaceful.
ఈ ఇస్లాం మతంలో కూడాను మరికొన్ని ఖురాన్ యందు ఒక పవిత్రమైన సూక్తులను కూడాను ప్రబోధిస్తూ వచ్చింది.
Islam has taught and included important things in Quran.
ఇక్కడ సలాత్ అని ఒక పదం,
One word is salat.
జకాత్ అని రెండవ పదము.
Zakat is another word.
సలాత్ అనగా స్థిరమైన భక్తితో భగవంతుని ఆరాధన చేయాలి అని.
Salat means to worship God with firm faith and devotion.
జకాత్ అనగా తోటి మానవులకు, కొన్ని దీనులైనటువంటి మానవులకు దాన ధర్మములు ఆచరించి తద్వారా తోటి మానవులను సంరక్షించుటకు పూనుకోమని కూడాను దీని యొక్క అంతరార్థము.
Zakat exhorts the followers of Islam to help the other human beings by providing what they need.
అది ఏ భారతీయుల యొక్క స్థితి పురాణములు ఎందుకుడను, ఇతిహాస పురాణములు ఎందుకుడను పరోపకార పుణ్యాయ పాపాయ పరపీడనమ్మని అష్టాదశ పురాణముల యొక్క సారమును కూడాను అందిస్తూ వచ్చాడు వ్యాసుడు.
Vyasa has expounded the same thing as the essence of 18 scriptures, and that is doing good for others and not harming anyone. This was
హెల్ప్
very important.
ఎవర్ హర్ట్ నెవర్.
Help ever and hurt never is the essence
ఈ
of 18
విధమైనటువంటి యొక్క
scriptures.
సూక్తులను ప్రాణ సమానమైనటువంటి యొక్క నాణములుగా భావించుకుంటూ ఆనాటి సర్వ మతముల వారు కూడాను సమన్వయం చేత జీవిస్తూ వచ్చారు.
With such holy and sacred feelings, the ancient ones lived a life based upon cooperation and understanding.
సత్యము, శాంతి, ప్రేమ, సహన, సానుభూతులు ఇవి పంచప్రాణములుగా విశ్వసిస్తూ వచ్చారు మతములకు.
Truth, peace, love, patience and forbearance have been described as
హిమ్ అనగా హింస, దు అనగా దూరం, హింసకు దూరంగా ఉండేటువంటిది హిందూ దేశము అని.
Hindu country refers to the nation which is free from violence, which is based upon
హిందూ హింసకు దూరంగా ఉండేటువంటిది.
being distant from violence.
కనుక క్రిస్టియన్స్ అని కానీ, ముస్లింస్ అని కానీ, బౌద్ధులని కానీ, జొరాస్ట్రియన్ కానీ, సిక్కులని కానీ, పార్సీలని కానీ ఈ విధంగా ఏమాత్రం కూడాను భేదములు పెట్టుకోకూడదు.
Therefore, we should not have any kind of difference between on the basis of that one is Sikh, one is Muslim, one is Zoroastrian, and that kind of based upon the religion.
Be it Shaivites or Vaishnavites among the Hindus, Shias or the Sunnis in Islam, or Catholics or Protestants in Christianity, no sect extols violence and falsehood. In fact, all of them have endeared to humankind to engage in spiritual sadhana, to make communion with the divine self. Zoroastrianism preaches the threefold message of Humta, Hukta and Huvrashta, which means good thoughts, good birds and good deeds. Buddha taught that nirvana can be attained only by cultivating samyak drishti, samyak vak, samyak shravanam, samyak bhavam and samyak kriya. Bhagwan says, see no evil, see what is good, hear no evil, hear what is good, talk no evil, talk what is good, think no evil, think what is good, and do no evil, do what is good. This is the way to God. I'm tempted to share a very small incident before I invite the second speaker. Couple of years ago, Bhagwan had called few faculty members into the bhajan hall for a private audience. And there he started narrating the story of Mahabharata. And this was the episode where Lord Krishna seemingly failed in all the attempts to bring about peace. And as he was returning from the palace of Duryodhana, he created an opportunity to meet Karna in privacy. And there Lord Krishna takes Karna to him and tells him the long hidden truth that he was actually the son of Mother Kunti and the sixth Pandava. And then he tells Karna, now please think about the implications of the war in this changed scenario. And he appealed to him to make peace. We know what happened then, how Karna was overpowered by his sense of gratitude to Duryodhana than showing his duty towards Dharma or his brothers. But the point is, Swami stopped the story here. He looked at us very sternly, as he normally does when he wants to give an important message. And he said, even all of you are brothers. If you cause pain, if you cause suffering, if you cause injury to others, remember, it will come back to your own self. The earlier you realize this, the better. Otherwise, all of you will regret like Karna when this truth of oneness inevitably dawns on you. Through this simple story of Karna, Bhagwan had communicated the essence of religion to all of us. Recognizing the oneness and living in this oneness is the true purpose of religion. We now have the honor of listening to His Holiness Sri Swami Dayananda Saraswati Ji. Sri Swami Dayananda Saraswati is a distinguished traditional teacher of Vedanta. His depth of understanding and nuanced appreciation of Western culture makes him that rare teacher who can communicate the vision of non-duality to modern listeners. Swami Dayananda has been teaching Vedanta both to the public and to resident students in short and long-term courses in India for more than 4 decades and around the world since 1976. Swami Dayananda designed and taught 10 resident in-depth Vedanta courses, each spanning 30 to 36 months. Each course graduated about 60 qualified acharyas or teachers who are now teaching around the world, and they are highly respected as Venerable Swamijis. A number of Veda Pathshalas have also been established by Swami Dayananda to revive and preserve the Veda Shakhas that are getting extinct. To make the teaching more widely available, he has created a Bhagavad Gita home study program and the Purna Vidya teaching program. Under his guidance, numerous centers of Vedic teaching have been founded around the world. The 2 main centers in India are in Rishikesh and Coimbatore, and in USA, the center is at Pennsylvania. At present, there are more than 100 centers in India and abroad that carry on the tradition of Vedantic teaching. He has also promoted several international events and participated as a speaker in several global forums like the UNESCO Seoul Global Convention, the United Nations 50th Anniversary Celebration, the Millennium World Peace Summit, the International Congress for Preservation of Religious Diversity, and many others. In addition to teaching, Swami Dayananda has initiated and supported various philanthropic efforts under the auspices of the Acharya Sabha convened by Swami Dayananda in 2002. He initiated an all-India movement called Aim for Seva, awarded the consultative status with ECOSOC, Economic and Social Council, by the United Nations in 2005. This organization is devoted to serving people in the remote areas of India through its main project of homes for children going to school. Nearly 90 such homes from Kanyakumari to Karnaprayag serve as a nucleus to bring education, healthcare and infrastructure to people to whom these were inaccessible earlier. We now welcome His Highness Swami Dayananda Saraswati Ji to come and address us. Swami Dayananda Saraswati.
ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्ति भेद विभागिने व्योमवत् व्याप्त देहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। ओम। I am very happy to be here. A place of a person who had inspired millions of people, not only of this country, people from all cultures, all countries. That he was able to do this because he was a symbol a manifestation of the Vedic culture, religion, wisdom. What goes under the name Hinduism is one Sanatana Dharma, never founded by anybody, a dharma which had produced in every generation great people. That it is able to produce great people because of its vision, of its view of life and reality, and the way of life advocated to achieve that reality. Someone said when he was asked, what is Hinduism? The great philosopher, he said it's a view and way of life. Totally true. The highest view that you can have is its view. Unique view. God is great is a belief. You can be great is a hope. All that is great is just you, is the view. There is no one greater than you, much less lesser than you. You are Purnaha, you are the whole. Just think of it. If there is such a thing as the whole, It can never be separate from you. If it is separate from you, it is not whole. It misses you. It is as simple as this. How people can miss, it's a wonder. You are the whole. And therefore, if you deny yourself this particular fact, not knowing, of course, then you will be struggling to become the whole, because it is against, your conclusion is against your own nature. As a human being, you are conscious of yourself. Not only just conscious of yourself as a person, you are judgmental. You can make a judgment because you are free. Your consciousness is uninhibited. And naturally, therefore, you have a judgment about yourself. In that judgment, there is a deficiency. And therefore, there is unacceptability. And therefore, seeking. Acceptability is the end of everybody's life, every human being. If there is a celestial being who is conscious of himself or herself as a person, that person will have the same problem. Self-acceptance is the issue. The self is acceptable is the view, the Hindu view, the Vedic view of reality. The self is totally acceptable. The acceptability is 100%. Whoever you are. And when you are totally acceptable, self-loath, self-pity, self-disapproval, struggling to approve myself, stems from self-ignorance. This is amazing. We have the last word about you. Nobody is going to improve this. You are the whole. And you do experience this wholeness occasionally. Whenever you are happy, the wholeness is the experience. No one can deny the reality of being happy, reality of oneself, which is the wholeness, and that is the experience in every moment of happiness. It may be in the wake of an object you like to have, an experience, something that captures your imagination. You can never say that now I never had a moment of happiness. You always had a moment of happiness. In fact, that keeps us going. These moments are very few and far between, but they do happen. If I am such a wanting, self-loathing, loathable person, how come that I could be happy for a moment? How I can deny myself? How can I go against myself? My thinking is that I am deficient. My experience occasional is I'm happy. Happy means I accept myself, I accept the world, I accept my in-laws too. You cannot be happy. Complaining, you cannot be happy. You accept yourself, your body, your teeth alignment, your color, your height, your weight, of course. You need to accept all of them. You have to accept the stars, your Shukra, your Shani, all of them. To have a moment of happiness is to accept all that is here totally, including yourself as a person. Your color, height, etc. Your knowledge, your memory, your ignorance, your limitations, all you are not at all mindful of all limitations. A moment of happiness reveals the truth that is, you are the whole. We are searching for the wholeness. The Vedic view is you are missing the wholeness. Ihachet avedit ata satyam asti. Nachediha avedit mahati vinashti. If you miss to recognize the fact about yourself that you are the whole, and the whole lifetime you will be searching for the wholeness. One lifetime is not enough. Until one discovers this, one never rests content. You are the problem because you are self-conscious and self-judging. You are the solution because you can discover yourself. This is the view of life. The way of life that will fashion my whole living fashion me and my way of living to unfold this wholeness, discover this wholeness, and therefore we have a very well laid out way of life. Two fellows are walking. One of them is a sculptor. The sculptor stops at a point, admires a wayside stone, a wayside rock, no shape, nothing, just a rock. a monolithic rock. He admires, he stops, doesn't move. His friend asks him, "What is it you are looking here?" Is it this rock? What is there in this rock? It's a wayside rock. What is it that you see here? He said, "I will tell you later. Let us take this rock to the studio where he is working as a sculptor. With some help, the rock was taken and his friend has left. Meets him after a month or two. Again, in the same studio. There stands an idol of Krishna. This fellow is a Krishna Bhakta, the friend. There stands a Krishna with Tribhangas. Now this fellow is admiring. He stands there, he can't take his eyes away. How beautiful it is, how real it is. Look at the smile. This fellow is all admiration. And then looks for his friend, the sculptor, who is standing there in one corner with a fine chisel and hammer. Asks him, "Did you make this?" He said, "Yes." "When?" "This is the one you helped me bring the other day." "You asked me on that day, what is it you are looking at this rock?" "This is what I was looking at the rock. In fact, I didn't look at the rock. I looked at Krishna. I saw this rock ideal for this Krishna. You think that I created this Krishna? Not at all. I unfolded Krishna. I removed all those portions of stone that covered Krishna. It is not, I did not shape Krishna. I made all the naked eyes to see Krishna. A Krishna that I saw with my eye of a sculptor." Understand? This is Vedic view. You are the whole. Your life should be such, it should help that wholeness manifest in every action, in every situation. You have got to bring that wholeness out. Sometimes our smallness gets the better of our bigness. The smallness comes out in lying, in cheating, in taking advantage of somebody's weak situation. It is my insecure being who comes out. My smallness comes out. My bigness is just lying buried. For want of satsanga, for want of proper vichara, for want of certain degree of adequacy, the smallness can come out, can take you over, and therefore a Hindu has a word like this. I don't think in any culture there is a word like this. Yuktaha, Atmavan, Jitendriyaha, Jitakrodaha, Atmavan. This is a very significant word. Atmavan. You know Balavan, you know Gunavan, but you means something you have, which you generally don't have. Dhanavan. You have got dhanam, therefore dhanavan. You have got some good qualities, therefore gunavan. Everybody has atma, you cannot say atmavan. But in Sanskrit, in Hindu culture, there is such a word called atmavan. Do you know why? Because you lose yourself. To be atmavan is to be together. My smallness has to be kept under check. And therefore, we have a word, yuktaha, atmavan, jitendriyaha. You don't get carried away by your own fancies and pressures and needs. And you hold them all together. To be Atmavan, not easy, but that's a value. Our way of life should be such. It helps me discover myself, a person who is not dictated by my own fancies, my own likes and dislikes, but I make my choices and I do what is to be done and avoid what is to be avoided. This is not easy, but we have a way of life that will unfold my bigness. Like that Krishna, already there Krishna. Purnaha is there. Krishna means Ananda. Purna is there already. You need a Rama, the Dharmavan, the one who follows Dharma. Ramaha, Vigrahavan, Dharmaha. He, the Dharma, has 2 hands and 2 legs, and that is Rama. When Dharma is there, Krishna Ananda follows. The way of life is Dharma. And Dharma is very important for us. Dharma is not a mandate of God. This mandate of God means it always created problems. It is not a mandate of God. Dharma is a manifestation of God. See the difference. It is a manifestation of God. Every religion has to recognize it. Dharma is itself God. And for God's sake, I cannot go against Dharma. It would be a defect in creation. If a human being given so much freedom, free will, and he is not given a mechanism to control himself, it would be a lacuna in creation. It's something like a fellow is given a Ferrari and there is no brake system in Ferrari. So if there is no brake system in Ferrari to this young man, and who is a young man and is restless, and this fellow is given a Ferrari without a brake system. Danger to himself, danger to everybody else. Human being is given this freedom. Every animal is programmed. Therefore, a cow will be a vegetarian even in America. The mother cow and other cows need not tell the cow, please be careful, you are going to America. Be careful, don't destroy our culture. We are born vegetarians, for generations we are vegetarian, from Kamadhenu downwards we are vegetarian. Don't bring any bad name to us. Need not the mother cow or any other cow need not tell this young cow going abroad. It will remain vegetarian. If the hamburger is thrown to a cow, it will take the buns and leave everything to the human being. What is in between is a fellow cow. It is programmed, it lives by its own programming. Every animal does it. A human being is endowed with the free will. He has to make a choice, he or she. What is to be eaten, how it is to be eaten, how also. When one should eat, how much one should eat, whether one should eat, where he eats, is also important. You have to make your choice. You have no choice in exercising choice. You have to exercise your choice. When that is so, I must be endowed with the mechanism, with some understanding, which makes me responsible for what I do, makes you responsible for what you do. What you do does not hurt me. What I do doesn't hurt you. This is a common basis, a matrix of values which are very common to all and sundry. And these cannot be made universally understood by any means of communication. It's impossible. But it is universal. Why universal? Because it is given. It is given to me that I should not get hurt. I know it very well. A cow also knows it should not get hurt. If the cow hurts you, being threatened, it hurts you. It's not going to have any guilt, much less you can bring it to the court. Whereas you have not only the knowledge that I should not get hurt without being told by anybody, by my common sense, I know that you also don't want to get hurt. This is not given by anybody. You don't need anybody in history to come and tell me this. If I'm a human being with a head on my shoulders, I know this. I don't want to get hurt, others also don't want to get hurt. I know this. This is called Samanya Dharma. Samanya means universal. This is not only for one set of people. No. For all. All means all. Every human being has this knowledge given by common sense. Faculty is given and the common sense is given, and knowledge born of common sense is given, that I don't want to get hurt, and I know others also don't want to get hurt. Dharma. This is Bhagavan. I would like to tell you this. What is here is Bhagavan. We don't say Bhagavan is up or Bhagavan is down. All that is here is Bhagavan. Bhagavan cannot have an address. Where is your son? California. Where is your daughter? In London. Nobody is locally available. Where is your daughter? She is in London. Where is your uncle? He is in Texas. Where is God? He is in heaven. Okay? Everybody has an address. And an email also. Everybody has an address. This, we don't give address to Bhagavan. Isha Vasyam idam sarvam. All that is here is Ishvara. We don't say there are many gods. We don't worship idols either. You don't say idole Namaha. We don't worship gods. Not many gods. We don't say there is one God. This one God has brought problem to us. One God people bring problems to humanity. We say God is not one. God is not many. There is no one God. There are not many gods. There is only God. Enough? There is only God. There is only God. If there is only God, every manifestation is Ishvara, is Bhagavan. The manifestation of Dharma right in my head is Bhagavan. Therefore, for God's sake, I cannot go against God. Understand? For God's sake, I cannot go against God. End does not justify the means. For us, the means is God. End will take care of itself. The means is what is important. And therefore, my way of life itself is a means to Ishvara. Discover that Purna. And therefore, once that Purna is discovered, I can say, Antah Purnaha, Bahi Purnaha, Purna Kumbha Ivam, Purna Kumbha, the Purna Kumbha Ivambare. Suppose you take a pot and hold it in your hand. Antaha Purnaha, space that is inside is Purna. Outside it is Purna. Purna Kumbha Ivambare. Similarly, if you take this pot into the ocean and dip it, Antah Purnaha, Bahif Purnaha. Inside it is Purna, outside it is Purna. It is just one Purna. And therefore, this is a complete dharma. The view is you are Purnaha. Nobody can improve it. I am saying the last word. You are Purnaha. Who will improve? And your way of life should be such, it brings out the Purna. This is Hinduism. Because for us, God is to be discovered. God is not a matter of belief. God is to be understood. Idam sarvam Ishvara means you see Idam sarvam. That is, Ishvara is a thing to be discovered. It's a thing to be discovered. The only dharma in which Ishvara is to be discovered, not a matter of belief. What is Ishvara? It is to be discovered. And therefore, we can validate all forms of prayer as our Baba was validating all forms of prayer, all forms of worship. In all languages God is not someone subject to linguistic problems. So whether you pray to him in Hindi or in English or Latin or Urdu, God understands. If you of course pray in Sanskrit, he would understand because that is his own language, So this is how we look at it. It is Deva Bhasha. In any language, in any form of prayer, and at any altar, everything is Ishvara. In any one form you can invoke him. There is no question of a prayer. It's a prayer and it is not valid. You cannot say that. Any form of prayer, any place. This is all we are able to say because of the vision and the way of life. View and way of life. Thank you all for this morning. So, I take you up.
On behalf of the Sri Sathya Sai Central Trust and on behalf of all of us gathered here, we express our love and gratitude to both Professor Akhtarul Wasey and Swami Dayananda Saraswati ji. We understand that tomorrow there is a Guru Purnima celebration in Swamiji's ashram. And the fact that in spite of that, he made it possible to come over here. Similarly, Professor Wasey, in spite of all his engagements, has come here, is a mark of their love for all of us. Thank you so much.